I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for taking the time and joining us, especially in this kind of crazy, unsure moment. We've got with the amazing website that Amy put together, and just so much enthusiasm, not only from writers around the United States but around the world. We've got folks from China and Russia and France interested in reading and who will be reading, and just seems like a real opportunity to bring folks together. So the format is really simple. Kelly will just read for 10 to 15 minutes. We can have a brief chat after, and that'll be that. For anybody who misses it, Amy and I are going to make this into a podcast. So, please spread the word. Please tell your friends. And then by the same token, if anybody is interested in reading, or if you have friends who are interested in reading, just reach out to us and we'll, do what we can. This will be an every week thing, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Big love to all. Thank you guys again for joining. And Amy, do you want to say a couple words about Kelly?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to echo what Brendan said. We're really excited to kick this off tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining us, and also Brendan for really being the brainchild behind this. It's I think a really great addition to what's going on right now. Before I introduce Kelly, I'm new to Zoom, but I'm learning. There should be a button in the bottom left that you can mute your mic so that it doesn't automatically jump to you if there's, let's say, a dog or two dogs barking in the background. So I'm gonna switch over to mute in a second here. But it's my honor to introduce Kelly, who is a dear friend of mine. And also, when we thought about who might kick it off, I just had a feeling Kelly would do an amazing job. She's an American essayist based here in Ohio, Central Ohio, and she's the author of the debut memoir, Goodbye, Sweet Girl, which was recommended by O Magazine and Bitch Magazine, named a 15 books that feminists should read, and a 30 best books to read by Bitch Magazine and Elle Magazine, respectively. Recent essays have appeared in Guernica, Gulf Coast, The Rumpus, Denver Quarterly, Slice, and Gay Magazine, and her 2015 essay, It Will Look Like a Sunset, was selected for inclusion in the Best American Essay Series. She earned her PhD in creative nonfiction from Ohio University, and she's the recipient of fellowships and grants from the Vermont Studio Center, A Room of Her Own Foundation, the Dickinson House, and the National Endowment for the Arts. She is presently at work on a collection of lyric essays on PTSD. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kelly.
I think you're still muted, Kelly.
Of course. I do that. I'm teaching a workshop on Zoom right now, and I'm always talking to my students, and someone will be like, Kelly, you need to unmute it. I wanted to read something that was more about the natural world because I am tired of being stuck in my house. It's not a nature essay, it's a personal essay, but it talks a lot about my home state, which is Idaho. And so it's called Whirling Disease. Before, we piled into a car, 4 girl women in our early 20s, a tent, a cooler full of food, and plastic baggie full of magic mushrooms. The car wound along the tight curves of the river, canyon walls rising sharply on either side, sunlight filtering through the glass. We stood in the middle of a stream, skirts tucked up around our waists, passing a fly rod between us and casting a line. The line flicked forward, hesitated gracefully in an arc before landing softly on the water. The cold stream funneled around us. We broke the arc of that glassy water. A silver glitter danced by my feet, a trout. It broke the surface, creating a circle on the smooth water, radiating into more circles, then slipping away soundlessly. We stood on a mountain. The valley stretched below us, more mountains in the distance. The winding stream, now just a thin black line. We took photos of each other. Our hair blew in the wind while we leaned forward. Blue Idaho sky stretched endlessly behind us. We arrived at the hot springs, a large, deep pool shimmering at the base of one of those mountains. We set up our tent. We ate our mushrooms, stuffing down the chalky, earthy harshness. We went for a hike to the place my friend called the womb of Mother Earth. We bushwhacked through greenery, no trail in sight. How had she found this magical place? We stood under a jagged white rock that formed a cave around us. We reached out and touched each other's faces, the light softening the edges of our fingers. We found the womb. We giggled. My friend told me to press my face to a rock and let the water run over me like the slick back of an otter. I pressed my face to the mossy rock. The warm water formed a pocket around me. I breathed in steam while the water rushed over my head. I opened my eyes. The rock teemed with life. I gasped. Bugs crawled over each other. A white bulbous spider munched on a fly. I wasn't afraid, but I shivered. Steam filled my lungs, the heat expanding in the red inside me. I pulled away, gasping. We giggled our way back to the spring, the sky darkening around us. There were other people there, a couple from Vienna and a pilot named Bob from Wisconsin. We shed our clothing on the way to the water, leaving a trail behind us. Even my modest friend timidly took off her shirt. We slipped into the warm water, floating on our arms. The man from Vienna danced around the spring, playing his harmonica. He too was naked. Bob said, "Why the hell not?" and off came his suit. The sky opened up above me, stars stretching into another silvery veil. I floated on my back. "Isn't it beautiful?" I asked Bob. "It's like a sequined black party gown stretched out above us." I closed my eyes. The water around me reached up and met the sky. The glittery stars twinkled in the darkness around me. "It's like we're floating in space," I said. Bob stared at me in wonder. "I want to be where you are," he said. At least that's what I heard. More likely he said, "I want to be on what you're on." In the distance, I heard branches breaking. Men rounded a corner on the trail, silver beer cans in their hands. British tourists who had just gotten off of a river trip. "Girls," they shouted, shedding their clothes and running into the water. We smiled and moved over. We made room in that pool. My first love was a big, beautiful alcoholic who sometimes raged at me when he drank, who sometimes cried in my arms, and who sometimes held me tenderly. I took him to the hot springs, my special place, a year after that magical night. We spent the entire day there alone, swimming, picnicking, and sunning on towels by the spring. He told me how beautiful my hometown was, how beautiful I was, how much he loved me, how he wanted to spend his life at that pool with me. He drank too much wine or whiskey, I can't remember, always one or the other. On the drive back, he pulled over and parked near the place where my friends and I had cast that fly line into the clear water. We made love in the back of his truck. He was older than me, more educated than me, wealthier than me. I had so much to learn from him. I was a good pupil. On the drive back, he pulled over and parked near the place where my friends and I had cast that fly line into the clear water. Oh, excuse me. When he left, I stopped eating, stopped sleeping, grew smaller. I wanted to be so small that I could disappear. I wanted to hide my head on that slick rock by the hot springs, let the water wrap around me, and return to that magical womb. After the alcoholic, I loved a fish biologist. We hiked into a clean mountain lake. He cast a fly line into the clear water while I sunned on a rock reading Edward Abbey. He didn't catch any fish. I came up behind him, wrapped my arms around his waist. I pointed at the water. "There's one," I said. He sighed. "That one has whirling disease," he said. "It can't stop spinning. It will eventually spin itself to death." "That's so sad," I said. I saw it then, the useless spins, the loss of control. That night, I awoke in my sleeping bag and my lover was gone. I unzipped the tent and found him outside, sitting on a flat rock, staring into the distance. I wrapped my legs around his waist, laid my head on his shoulder, and we watched that still water together. A fat moon hung above us. The stars stretched into a silvery veil. The fish spun hopelessly below us. After. I met my husband in a bar. He danced with my best friend. She pulled down his pants as a joke, and he kept dancing in his boxer shorts. He made me laugh. I wanted to know him better. Then the baby came. The baby split me in two. I screamed at the final moment as the yellow line on the monitor reached its peak. Then my flesh ripped. Relief. The baby slipped onto the table, slick and red and crying. Was I crying? I can't remember. I remember my husband crying and smiling. The nurse brought the baby to my breast, laid his skin against mine. My husband couldn't stop crying. My husband later told me that when he saw the pain I was in, he couldn't stand it. He knew things about himself that I didn't know yet. He wanted to tell me. There was so much he wanted to tell me. He was so sorry. But I didn't know any of this while my baby rooted at my chest. I only knew that feeling. I only knew my husband's eyes, so full of love and hope and something that also looked like guilt. But I didn't yet know what guilt looked like. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that my husband would go fishing when his rage overcame him. He would never catch any fish. I would make fun of him for bait fishing when fly fishing seemed so much more elegant. I would make fun of him for never catching any fish. This would become a joke for us. But also I would sob while he was gone. I would wonder if he was coming back. I would wonder if he was even fishing. I would know there had been other women. Desperation clawed at my insides. Desperation sliced me open at the gills. When the baby came, I didn't know yet that years later, I would call my dad from my computer because my husband had broken my phone in a rage. I would cry, "Dad, he beat me up." My dad wouldn't know what to say. My dad wouldn't know what to do. He lived over 3,000 miles away. He didn't know what to do. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that on the same day I called my dad from my computer, my husband would get so angry that he would hurl his own phone into a river. And because neither of us had a phone, his mother emailed me a few days later to tell me someone had found his phone in the water. It still worked. I was so angry that his phone still worked, but mine was broken. Mine was still broken. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that my husband and I would dance while the baby slept upstairs. I wasn't a very good dancer, and he was worse. We stumbled over each other's feet, but we kept trying. I remember dancing with another man before I met my husband. That man spun me with such strength and precision that the footwork felt effortless. We spun in circles, glittery lights above us that looked like stars. We whirled underneath a ceiling that looked like the sky. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that I would soon be fighting my own impulse to spin. I didn't yet know what it felt like to be helpless. The knife slices into the silver gills, exposes the pink meat underneath. Do fish feel pain? Do their shocked eyes look at us and beg us to stop right before the knife pierces their flesh? Or are they simply relieved to have it over with? I am using the fish as a metaphor because fish are the most useless of animals. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that my marriage would end with a 911 call. I had a new phone by then. I didn't yet know that I would finally do it. I would dial the final one in the sequence of numbers that changed my life. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that my husband would leave me in handcuffs, but he would want to come home. I didn't yet know that I would stare at our wedding photo for a long time, wondering what to do. In the photo, I was smiling, hopeful. He looked so young, his eyes so kind. When that photo was taken, I didn't yet know what his contempt looked like. I only knew his kindness. I remembered when the fish biologist had given me a framed photo of himself. In the photo, he knelt by a cold, clear river. He held a silver steelhead in his hands. He was smiling. I returned the photo after the relationship ended, but I regretted it. I missed his image. I remembered another photo of the alcoholic smiling at me from the spring, only his head above the clear water. I kept that photo, tucking it into the back of an old photo album. My husband would not have liked it if he had known. I knew that the hot spring was gone. A forest fire burnt over it and filled it with ash. It was a different fire from the one that had killed a friend only a few ridgelines away. He was a smoke jumper. He had tried to run, but the fire was too swift. When they found his body, his fire blanket, silver and steely, lay uselessly next to him. When the baby came, I didn't yet know that my husband would want to come home after the arrest, that I would let him back into my home for 2 more days, that my husband would not change, but I would. I would finally say no. In the summer, after the baby came, we went to Dagger Falls on the Salmon River where the salmon jump. They are called Dagger Falls because of the sharp black rocks that poke out of the frothy white water. I had once found an arrowhead at Dagger Falls, black obsidian carved into a sharp point. I pocketed it even though I shouldn't have. I should have left it where I found it. Take only memories, leave only footprints. I tried to take part of that wilderness home with me, but I lost it. I thought of that as I stared at those falls. Maybe it had been karma. Maybe I had lost the arrowhead because I never should have tried to take something that didn't belong to me. I didn't think I deserved to have anything beautiful in my life. The salmon sprung out of the water. They hit the rocks with loud thwacks. It must have been painful. Some of them found the right route, natural steps built into the falls that they could navigate, but some of them did not. One of them kept flopping back into the water, shocked for a moment, then sprung back up and jumped again, hit the black rock again, fell again, and again, and again. It couldn't help itself. It couldn't change its nature. Isn't it beautiful, I asked my husband, the persistence? But aren't they just returning to the place of their birth so they can die, he asked me. I stared at that fish, fighting for its right to die. I guess so, I said. I thought of my former lovers, of how much it had hurt when those lovers had left me, of how I hadn't let go of that hurt until I met my husband, of how I'd hoped that when we married, it meant I would never have to hurt like that again. I looked at my husband and felt that we wouldn't be married forever. I held my chubby baby in my arms. He smiled at me and reached his little hands out to touch my face. The water raged below us, and for a moment I wanted to jump. I wanted to jump in. I smiled at my baby, holding him up above the water so that he too could see the salmon jumping, their silver and red bodies glinting like blades. My baby laughed. I held him tightly. I wouldn't let him go. I might jump, but I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't let him be swept into those waves with me. The end.
Awesome.
Amazing.
I'm unmuting to clap.
That was beautiful, Kelly.
Thanks.
Gorgeous.
Does anyone have questions?
How do we do this?
Ellen, you can either type a question, which is fine, or just chime in. I know you're happy just chiming in, so you can do that too.
How do you know that, Brendan?
Because I know you so well.
I know. Okay, so it flipped me out. So it says, get your account for free, whatever. How do I get back into you? The thing? Wait, I got it. Go down to the icon. Yeah?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I don't know why it flipped
You
me out.
probably have a pop-up in front of the screen, Ellen.
Yeah.
So close that,
Okay.
and then hopefully
Does
you'll
that work?
Ellen, you figure that out. In the meantime, does anybody have thoughts?
Now I
about
can ask the question, can I?
Please
Yes.
go on.
Yeah.
Okay. Shouldn't have to see me to have me ask the question.
I can
I
see
have
you
read-
actually.
What?
I can see you.
Oh, that's good. I can't see me and I don't look that good, so that's fine. Okay. I've been reading your book, your memoir, for the past, however many days. And I have to say to you that given my own situation, it is astoundingly personal and touching for me. So your various stories, now I don't know if I've read the essay that you just read right now. I've read only your book. And it is earth-shattering for me. It is astounding for me. And I just want to tell you that I'm only here tonight because I wanted to hear you speak in person about your experience, which is so close to my own, very close to my own. But not just that, I love your writing. I didn't even know who you were. I mean, I'm here because I know Brendan and I take every class he has and whatever. I'm a groupie, I guess you can say. But I'm saying the book is astoundingly powerful. It is like saying, ladies, women, mothers, lovers, whatever, get it, do it, and move on. And so I want to thank you for that. And I'm right now, because I only have your book online on my thingy here. So I want to read something to you that you wrote that I think is so beautiful. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, hang on. Let me do this. Okay. I don't know what chapter this is in. It just says, and slowly I found beauty in this town. But I read that as slowly you found beauty in your life. And you have no idea how inspiring and motivationally, emotionally strong that is for me right now. And I thank you. That's why I'm here tonight. Hello, Brendan. That's why I'm here tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, you made me like cry a little bit.
Oh, cry. Now I'm going to try to get online so that you can see my face. I don't get my Zoom thing. But anyway, I hadn't heard of you before. I read your essays online. I read it. But your book is astounding. It is astoundingly powerful for women, for human beings, for whatever. It's amazing. I just want to tell you that. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Someone wrote in I had like a Goodreads review from a high school student, and she said they should teach this book to high schoolers everywhere. And that actually I really felt that, because I think in the looking at like my childhood stories, because there are other reviews that are like, why did she put so much stuff from her childhood in there? I really wanted to show the way that I was created by the same culture that most other women are created by, and how that made me someone who was, I think, very strong, but willing to make excuses for egregious behavior because it just seemed like that's what you did when you loved someone.
Well, and am I muted? No?
You're okay.
Okay. That's the thing that I'm struggling with right now. And I will say to you, I will turn 75 this year. So I have 26 years of a marriage that now are false and lying and horrible to me. And I'm saying, oh, wait, what did I miss? What did I not get? Am I free or not free? Because I get it now. When I read your book, I just felt like I can find this freedom I need to find. I need to find strength and freedom. And your book is amazing that way. It's just stunning. It's beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Brendan. Told you I'd be here.
I'm glad you are, Ellen, as always. Anybody else have comments? I know that's a hard one to top, but please, either you can send something through chat, or
I have
I'll
a
just
neat
yeah,
question.
go on.
Sure. Kelly, you're really gifted at obviously writing circular thoughts and moving into a subject and then circling back to it in time. But this one has such an amount of circle in it. And I'm curious where you were in your thinking through this chapter when the whirling disease came to you. How far were you in thinking your way through how you wanted to talk
The
through your
whirling
past
disease
experiences?
came to me first.
It's, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was like talking to my friend whose husband was a fish biologist, and somehow whirling disease came up. And then I thought, that's such a strange phenomenon, and it has some other official name. It's some kind of bacterial thing. But I just remembered that moment with that boyfriend, and he was really like the nicest boyfriend I'd ever had. And I started thinking about like looking at the ways that like, because it was the beginning of, and so people who know my recent writing know that I'm like working on a collection of essays. And the tentative title is The Witching Hour Essays from and After, because I really think of my life as before Caleb and after Caleb. And this essay was, I think, the first like before and after essay that I wrote. The recent ones I've been writing have just been all after. But I really wanted to write about the way that I had been, you know, that I had like entered into relationships kind of so innocently, like we all do before we've been deeply hurt, and how that changed. And I knew I wanted to do it through the examination of the whirling disease and the spinning, and because I saw myself very much as someone who had just been for years enacting the same patterns, and I was like, oh, I'm one of those fish. And that's where the idea came from.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Guys, let's do one more question if there is one, and then let's wrap it up.
Is Ellen talking?
I was trying to talk. Is somebody?
Hi, Ellen.
It's me. Hi. I love this idea of the essay collection you're working on as an after, you know, and it brings to mind what Ellen was saying, like, you know, this realization was this huge chunk of life a lie, or, you know, was it not true in some way? And, you know, I feel like in your memoir, you know, that's a way obviously of reclamation and, you know, telling your own part of the story. And so I wonder in your new essays, what's different in the after? Are you finding them easier to write as you've moved into this new stage? And how did you decide? Did you just start writing them and then you decided this is a book? Or did you come up with the idea and start writing those essays? Because your essays are brilliant. I mean, you're probably, you know, the most brilliant essay writer ever. I mean, your essays are phenomenal. So I'm very excited for that book.
Amy and Brendan, I'll do this every week if you want. So the idea of the after came from after I finished my book, and my book was very much like an examination of my whole life. And because it was a memoir, it had to be driven to some kind of resolution. And it's not that the resolution at the end is not true. It is. It's sincere and it's true. But it's like a kind of, it's tidy. And what I was finding after the book came out was that I still have, like, my issues now are no longer, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't miss him. But I'm marked by the years of physical violence that I endured. And part of like my healing process is having to recognize that there is no such thing as being healed when you've gone through something like that. Like I also watched Lifetime movies my whole life, and like the endings are like, they're so happy and their life's just gonna be great. And I have a really good life, but also, so I'm just going in so many different directions, wanting to show that I can be marked by something terrible in kind of terrible ways, but also have a good life. Like, and so I think the first essay I wrote that gave me this idea was one that I thought about reading today. I got asked to write an essay about anger for an anthology, and I ended up writing this weird lyric, poetic essay that was really incantatory about the way that people's voices got into my head and they haunt me like ghosts. And it was too literary for the anthology, but I was published in Alaska Quarterly Review recently. And I realized like it was just totally different in terms of style from what I had been working on. It's kind of similar to this one actually, but I guess that was the first before and after. And I realized I just wanted to write these like fever dream essays about what it's like to exist in a fever dream. Because I think the thing about PTSD is like you're always in a fever dream.
Mhm.
And that's just my life now. And, you know, I've learned how to live with it.
And I love too that you're adding, I mean, you know, being a writer that writes about domestic violence myself in my own memoir and, you know, in poems and stuff, a lot of the canon of domestic violence writing, you know, tells a similar story, where you began, how it all came to be, and, you know, and you survived. And so to me, like, the reason I imagine you get the same questions. Well, don't you want to move on and write about something else? But it's so exciting that you're writing that, because, you know, that's not how our lives work. You know, it doesn't end with that tidy ending. And there's such a limited amount of deep literary writing on the after. So
I mean, honestly, I think these essays, and maybe I shouldn't even say this, but I feel in a way like they're actually pushing against my own memoir, because there is no tidy resolution. And I mean, also with the memoir, like I was really seeking to educate people in a literary way about why I stayed in my marriage for so long. But with these essays, these are essays about domestic violence that are for writers. Like I will just say it, these are for other writers. And the subject matter, I mean, this is the subject matter I have. It's like what's been given to me, but I really wanted to write these in a way that it might even be inaccessible to some readers, but that is for like writers.
I love that.
I love that too. I can't imagine a more perfect kickoff for BunkerLit. So thank you so much to Kelly for reading for us. Thank you so much to all of you who tuned in. It's been really wonderful to share the last half hour with you guys.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you so much,
everybody.
Kelly. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank
I
you,
really
Kelly.
appreciate it.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week.
Every week at 8 p.m. Wednesday. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
And,